Other meeting ran just a touch long. Wendy, roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Please rise and join Councilman Kuzumoto in the Pledge of Allegiance. And stay standing for the prayer afterwards.
So earlier we had a general lead us in the pledge in the earlier meeting, and I really just can't hold a candle to that, but I did want to acknowledge General was here to do that. So would you join me in saluting our flag? Please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay standing, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessing, allowing us to meet tonight. Please grant us the wisdom to support and help our citizens, and please support and help our military all over the world. Amen. Amen. Okay, would you guys want to join me for the presentations?
Oh, you were? Didn't ask you.
Well, get a real chance today to thank a friend of mine who's known me since I was 15 years old. Gary Cunningham has done business here. At one time was the oldest business license in the Los Alamitos area. He has been my barber for 45 years. One complaint, when we started, I had this really bushy surfer look, and now this. I don't know if you're getting worse as time goes on. It can't be me. Gary has had a long history of feeding the homeless out of his own pocket, you know, going around and making sure that the less fortunate in our community are taken care of. So please join us up here. I'm going to ask you to hold these. We give you the certificate of recognition. Gary is the owner. Please turn this way, sir. Okay. Gary is the owner of Gary's Place, which is located over by Spin Pizza, off on the back side of the boulevard there. Would you like to say a few words? Maybe how wonderful I've been as a customer?
Yeah. You were more wonderful when you were younger with hair. No, my name is Gary, and you know, I'm grateful to just be here today. At one time, they told me I'd never cut hair again, and you know, because I have an illness. But you know what? I've learned that I can do what I have to do. Maybe I can't do it all at one time, but you know, I'm so grateful to the people around here who just accept me for who I am. You know, I found out it's not who you are, sometimes it's what you are, you know, and finding about yourself. And, you know, it's through friends like this gentleman here and the rest of them that make a difference in my life. Gives you a day to go again the next day. And I'm so grateful to see half my family here. I got a crew, so thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. Gary, would they like to come up for a photo? You want to?
Yeah. Oh, you want to take one later? Or?
No, bring them up now if they would like.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, Holly. We're going to take this side of the room.
Please do.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for 45 years of business. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure the Spinellis are here. Are Joe and Joey Spinelli here? No, I didn't see them. Okay. Then we will move on to a man who really saved our bacon in the last couple weeks ago. Many of you don't know, we had a very successful race on the base, but in the weeks leading up to the race on the base, it was frantic. Rules were changing. The base was no longer allowed to provide us with fire. And, you know, you're not going too far unless somebody's going to provide that service. And Battalion Chief Ken Cruz was able to jump in and provide us on maybe about a week's notice, Chief. And we were able to have a very successful race on the base because of that. Please join us up here for the certificate of recognition. And we'll give you the mic and let you introduce everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, just for taking the time to recognize us. Yeah, these guys are always out there doing a great job. This is the crew from Engine 2 that were out there providing the service that day. I just do the office work behind the scenes, and as the city's fire department, you know, we are always there to help, and glad we were able to bail this out in that short time frame. So.
It wouldn't have happened without. Would you care to introduce everybody?
Yes, we have Jeff Hubert here. We affectionately call him the mayor of Los Alamitos.
Nothing happens without his say.
How many years you lived here, Jeff?
48.
Yeah, and Captain Tom Moon, and firefighter paramedic Sam Semingson.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you again. As I said, the race would not have happened without you, so thank you for helping us out. Glad we could recognize you today. Thank you. Oh, you get this.
Okay.
One picture, please, yeah. One more, right? Proclamation. Okay.
It's required. It's required. Yeah. The ones in-
And we also have a proclamation here for Dave Holland for DMV Donate Life California Month. Please come on up, Dave. Thank you. This is that small dot you put on your driver's license to allow your organs to be donated. A great cause, in my opinion. Please tell us about it.
Well, first, if I can share my personal story, which I think underscores the need. In 1993, I was diagnosed with adult onset juvenile diabetes, type 1, insulin dependent. I was not looking forward to spending at that point 5 to 7 years on dialysis waiting for a transplant. Now that wait is up to 10 years. After a couple of years on dialysis, my brother Mike stepped forward. In April of 2004, in a couple of weeks it'll be 11 years, my little brother saved my life. I wish I could say that story ended there, but I can't. I was still diabetic, and the diabetes continued to get worse. I was in pretty bad shape, and the good folks at Loma Linda listed me for a pancreas transplant. And in February 2006, a little over 9 years ago, a young lady named Lacey, 16 years old, she was a high school student in Murrieta, was in a car accident. She was able to donate 4 organs. I received her pancreas. And because I have a pancreas that produces insulin, for the last 9 years, I have not been diabetic. If I can put that in context for you folks, last week I hit 30 years working for my company. I work for Boeing. Next Tuesday is my 25th wedding anniversary. At the end of May, my daughter will graduate from college, and our son will graduate from high school. You realize I wouldn't be around to treasure those milestones were it not for God and my donors and their families. And that's a true blessing. The City of Los Alamitos has long supported Donate Life Month and supported the donor registry. There's roughly 120,000 people across the country waiting for an organ or cornea transplant. One donor can potentially affect up to 60 people when you take into consideration skin, tissue, corneas, and organs. So, if you're not already a registered donor, please, at the DMV, or you can go to donatelifecalifornia.org, and it might take you 5 minutes to register. So again, the city has been very supportive of us in the past, and we continue to treasure that support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great story. Okay, we're now going to open it up for oral communication. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are limited to no more than 5 minutes, please. Anyone care to speak? Mr. Hammond?
I am Stephen Hammond of Greenbrook. My birthday was November 12th, and a present was the announcement in that day's newspaper of the responsibilities of commissioners. Candidates for the TV Commission, to which I belong, have different duties from other commissions, but all commissioners are expected to find out things and to advise the council. Agenda item 10A was placed by the city manager without significant input from the commission. When I so complained at the last commission meeting, the city manager simply denied it without proof, and a fellow commissioner suggested stupidity on my part. The only inputs I can find are substitution of request for quote for request for proposal, and a paraphrase in the scope of services of a minuscule portion of John Underwood's desired goals of any person or group who might manage LATV. My impression from the August 18th council meeting was that proposals were sought to manage LATV. The qualifications that had been received were to study management for 3 months and report back. The commission was not allowed to critique the RFQ before it went out. It was excluded from reviewing, let alone interviewing, the 4 respondents. Egregious points in the scope of services are: in public access programming, the need to assess community interest. LATV is only 5 years younger than the city itself. According to her obituary, Althea Miller joined the station, took training, and started traveling with Althea in 1965. All kinds of public access shows followed until production was recently abandoned for lack of resources. Do we now need a survey of interest? Studies in which I participated show volunteers can eliminate cost to the general fund. In capital needs assessment, equipment purchases have been amply studied and submitted to you. Please reject this candidate in anticipation of a comprehensive, volunteer-driven program, which discussion I challenge the city manager to agendize for the next commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Honorable Mayor, my name is Ernie Rodriguez. I'm the commander of the American Legion here in Los Alamitos, right down the street. Honorable council members, Los Alamitos' finest, city staff. Reason I rise is I also am opposed to conducting any further studies when we have a plan that's already been approved unanimously by the commission to move forward with our public access channel. We signed a letter of intent from the American Legion stating that we would be supporting the public access channel to the tune of several times a year, maybe 6 or more. And we understood that there would be a small monetary fee. But now I understand that we want to spend the city's money to create this new version of public access, which is not going to be directly beneficial for the members of the public to inform the public. So I rise in opposition. I would like to inform the council that the American Legion is not very happy with the feet dragging that's been taking place. We signed this thing over a year ago. And it's my understanding that we have money that's set aside specifically for this purpose and is not being used. And my understanding is it's only a small portion of the amount of money that's available from the Public Utilities Commission. So please try not to spend any more of our hard-earned money. $18,000 might not sound a lot to some of you, but to us it's a lot of money. And we are hopeful that the rest of the nonprofits in the city will be able to get their messages out to the rest of the town without having to spend an exorbitant amount of money. So I am definitely opposed to the idea of putting the public access channel under the Recreation Department. Thank you all for your time and all your hard work.
Would you take a question, please?
Yes,
Would you take a question, please?
absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So I do have a question. So the agreement that you referenced, it was signed between the VFW post over here? in
The American Legion,
Legion?
we have
And who on the city side did you sign the agreement with?
it was from the public access channel. Mr. Underwood was instrumental in that.
So, okay, so, city manager, did we enter an agreement with the American Legion Post?
No, the city has not.
No other questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was just a letter of intent that we will.
I understand. I just, my question was answered.
That
Thank
we
you.
would be willing to participate in any functions or commercials or anything like that with the public access channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you guys' hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm John Underwood. I am the chairman of the Los Alamitos Cable Commission. I would defer my comments to later in the evening, perhaps when item 10A, which is the proposal, recommended proposal by the city manager for a study of LATV, will come up this evening. However, I am here on behalf of another of these community producers that have formed this community pool. It's an informal group, but have all signed and written letters of intent identifying that they wish to participate in LATV Studio and use the LATV Studio for their public access purposes. And so I'm speaking on behalf tonight for another of those potential public access producers who has also placed their letter of intent to participate. And that would be Kenny Brandeberry from the CASA Youth Shelter. Kenny asked me to speak his words. These are his words, not mine. He is out running pizzas. It's Pizza Monday night. They're promoting Pizza Monday. He's running pizzas back and forth to the hospital. But if I may, and again, these are Kenny Brandeberry's words, not mine. Dear members of the council, you all know me as someone who's always been there for Los Alamitos to help in any way I can, from planting new trees on the boulevard to the 4th of July tradition going forward. You also know me for my many fundraising efforts on behalf of my beloved CASA Youth Shelter, the organization that helps troubled kids and families and has now helped over 12,000 kids since it was started by Mildred Jones in 1978. CASA has become a beacon of light for so many kids, and its reach has grown over the years to include troubled youths across the county. And we are always looking for ways to reach out to these kids in any way we can. One way I've been excited about this is through an opportunity to reach out to more kids through the use of our local TV outlet, LATV. I myself would like to host or co-host a program on LATV, giving the public a heads up on our fundraising efforts throughout the year. When the chance to go into the studio at LATV was brought to me, I was all for it. And it sounded like it was going to happen just around the corner. All that was needed was to complete the purchase of some equipment for the studio, and we'd be off and running, I was told. That was almost a year ago, and still no studio. My understanding is that the equipment has been identified and recommended by the LATV Commission to the council, but that the council has not given its okay for its purchases. The money is there, I'm told, in the studio reserve, which is far more than is needed, but has not been authorized by the council. Now there is this study that is being considered tonight. I don't understand why we need a study. We have the tech-type people at LATV to work the controls. We have the money available for the equipment, and the desire on the part of a pool of producers, people like me who are ready and willing to come to the studio and begin talking about their organizations on TV. And I am not alone. All up and down Love Street, there are nonprofits who want to take advantage of the studio and become public access producers so as to promote the charitable work they do. I don't think we need an $18,000 study to get this going. For us at CASA, it's huge to be able to come into a studio in our town and deliver our message to our community about our charity, and to be able to put out ahead of our fundraising with our message. And I think I can speak for other nonprofits who would like to have that same access to the studio also, and be able to do programs as professional as the ones that Rick Papp and John Underwood and Larry Strother have shown can be done in the studio. Everybody benefits from what we nonprofits do in Los Alamitos, and we all will be able to do it better if we can just get those doors open and get in there and do it. It seems to me all that is missing here is the council's okay for the equipment. That $18K could sure buy a lot of equipment to help us all get started. Thank you very much. Signed, Kenny M. Brandeberry.
Thank you.
I'd like to enter this into the record, if I may.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the warrants. Any questions, first of all?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselman.
Aye.
Councilmember Bustamante.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Aye.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. We'll move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item.
I'd like to pull item H.
H. Anybody else?
Move the balance.
I'm going to pull E, G, and I, but for real quick comments, but let's go ahead with H first.
Can we move the balance?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can.
I'll move the balance. Thank you.
Sam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody. Dean, you want to start with H? You want a staff report?
No.
Okay.
This is authorizing attendance at the SCAG Regional Conference on May 7th and 8th. City manager has submitted for him to attend, and I believe last year the mayor attended the conference. And I'm just wondering, his staff report talks about it being electeds and staff. Did we reach out to any of the council to see if anybody wanted to attend?
I've talked to both the mayor and Councilmember Kusamoto, and last year we received a request from SCAG to send a delegate from the city council, and it was, at the time, it was Mayor Kusamoto at that time. So, and Councilmember Kusamoto has expressed an interest of attending this conference. Once we receive that request from SCAG again this year, we're planning on putting it on the agenda in April for Councilmember Kusamoto to attend, and I don't know if the mayor...
Unless there's somebody else that would like to attend, I'd certainly.
Why not both people? I mean,
Can be.
it's a pretty helpful conference. Why are you interested?
I'm just questioning why the city manager, as opposed to one of the electeds. I think our past history has been, it's always been an elected member that is attended.
And that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be me either attending. It could be just one council member, and I don't need to attend. I put this on here because it looked very helpful in terms of the potential for grants, and given the Los Alamitos Boulevard project, we just wanted to proactively attend. If a council member wants to attend, and I do not need to attend, or I could go with a council member or two.
And Dean, if I could interject, in meeting with SCAG just recently, city council, their registration is free, so there is no expense. And then the hotel is covered for one night for one city council delegate. So I think this is approving the expense as opposed to if we wanted to go, there would be no cost, at least as far as the registration.
That's correct. Yeah, it is free. The registration is free for a council member to attend.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve 8H.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? I pulled 3 items, they're real quick. On item E, I just want to confirm that if we somehow don't proceed with the pool, how do we get out of the contract?
We have our typical professional services agreement has a termination clause, and we've checked this one. This would allow us with a 5-day notice to exit this particular agreement if the council moves forward with it. And Corey Lincoln, our Recreation Community Services Director, has also talked to the vendor as well and put them on notice in the effect that we would not be moving forward with the pool lease after February of next year. Corey, you want to?
Correct. The mayor, members of the city council, on the new agreement is a 1-year extension of the previous agreement. And the previous agreement in section 17.1, the termination clause, it says that the city may terminate this agreement for any reason on 5 calendar days written notice to consultant, and then continues on from there. So if we are to vacate the pool, we would terminate this agreement in plenty of time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to G, I just wanted to, we asked our city clerk to become, I'm sorry? I was going to do them all at once. Can I do them all at once? All right. G, we asked our city clerk to become more proactive, and I just want to congratulate her on bringing this easier way to do things to the council and to the commissions, and that's my only comment there. And on I, wanted to thank our former mayor and longtime councilwoman, Jerry Mejia. We're having a lot of trouble in the Highlands with vector issues, a lot of flies, and I've heard from 2 citizens that when When Jerry was called, even though she's no longer on the council, she was called as our Vector representative, and Vector did come out, discovered the source of the problem, and it has subsided for a while, so thank her for that. We are going to take a short break. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to make a motion to move E.G. and I. So I will make that motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposition. Before we do the public hearing, we'll take a 10-minute break and start back up at 7 o'clock. Back to order. We are going to open the public hearing for the adoption of the general plan and then immediately postpone it in order to hear discussion item 10, which is the recommendation of the cable consultant. Brett, report, please.
If I may postpone it until after the Cable Commission,
Yes, I'm
not
sorry.
to another date.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
So go right into the Cable Commission
Yes, please.
item. Okay. Mayor and City Council, we have on your agenda tonight, it's a recommendation of a cable consultant and approval of professional services agreement with Skyline MediaCast Productions for cable operations study in an amount not to exceed $18,000. We have gone through, based on the previous City Council direction, we went forward with a request for qualification for proposals. We went through the due diligence process. I will have Jason Alimon, the Director of Administrative Services, do a brief staff report. We also have the consultants here from Skyline, and he will introduce them as well. So I'll have Jason go into this.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'll give a brief overview of the item, and then I'll hand it over to the consultant to give a brief presentation. In August, the City Council held a special workshop to discuss the future of LATV. It was at that point in time that the Council provided direction to City staff to seek proposals from consultants to provide their vision for the future of LATV. The outcome of that was the issuance of a request for qualifications, which was sent out on December 8th to 4 consultants. The city received those proposals on January 12th, 2015, which were evaluated, and based upon the qualifications and experience of those firms, staff interviewed the top 3 ranked firms. And the outcome of those interviews was staff recommends Skyline MediaCast Productions, based upon the experience of the principals Ernie and David, who have over 35 years of experience in government cable television programming. Their experience includes work with the City of Long Beach, City of Irvine, and City of Santa Ana. And we believe, based upon their experience and their qualifications and really industry expertise, that they're best suited to analyze the city's cable operations. The scope of work of the study would encompass looking at public access programming in terms of how to best manage public access programming in a manner that minimizes cost to the city's general fund. They would look at government access programming, and once again focusing on the highest and best use of government access programming and leased programming. Skyline would work with the city, the chamber, nonprofits, the school district, and the local business community and others to establish contacts with interested parties to see if there's potential for self-sustaining sponsorship programming. They'll also look at a capital needs assessment as well, and they'll review proposals that have been submitted through the Cable Commission as well as part of that process. The outcome of their study will result in a deliverable, an actual report that would be provided to City Council that will outline the results of their study. And at this point, I will turn it over to David and
If I could, before you guys get up, I'd like to open it for public comment, please. And if anybody has a comment at this time on this issue, please come up.
Once again, good evening. Mayor, members of the council, I'm John Underwood. I'm the chairman of LATV Commission. I'm anxious to hear what Ernie Costello has to say. We're old compatriots going way back in public television in Orange County. I have a lot of respect for Ernie. My issue presently and at the moment regarding 10A is the fact that the LATV Commission, which does have some rather extensive oversight obligations toward LATV, has not weighed in on this study or the anticipation of this study. We understand about the RFP, RFQ process. We were even to some extent involved in that. It was our recommendation at the Commission that it be an RFQ, a request, not a request for proposal, but a request for qualifications. And that was duly noted by the city manager and went forward, and we ended up with Ernie Costello's group. So be it. We were not consulted or in any way brought into the field of view of this study, or we were not asked, what parameters this study should cover. We certainly could and would have had input into that, and we did not. This study, now proposing and recommending an expenditure from the general fund, taxpayer money, of $18,000, comes right out of the blue for us. The first I heard of it was Thursday when the agenda packet came out. So I feel it's a kind of a curveball out of left field, and I'm wondering why the commission, which, I could tick off for you what the commission is supposed to be about. We're supposed to look at broadcast standards, scheduling, recommend grants, plan enhancement for usage and outreach to the community, effectively create a bridge to the community and make productions possible for the community, opportunities for the community to participate in LATV should be nurtured by the commission. We should reach out to students at the local high schools and colleges. We should review recommendations and make recommendations for equipment purchases for LATV. We should authorize equipment purchases for LATV. And it goes on. I won't bore you with any more of them, but we have a substantial responsibility in black and white as members of the commission. And that's what I'm representing here tonight, is the commission. And I feel like we've just basically been blindsided, and we'd like to have more time and more input, frankly, into this process. If there is going to be a study, let us have an input into it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, okay, please now.
Well, thank you very much for having us here, and I certainly applaud the passion of your community around this event. This is actually very, it's wonderful to hear that people are this concerned about through communication and the channel. We're here to talk about the possibility of using LATV3 as an asset to hopefully generate enough money to move the city council and campus to another location on the funds generated from LATV3. I joke. No, we're here to talk about the proposing a study to see how these airwaves can best be used. And some of the ways we're looking at, and we know that a large concern is to minimize the impact on the general fund. So some of the things we're looking at are, and luckily it seems like there'll be great interest in instilling a public access volunteer program, training some of the potential producers in video so that they can become professional, or so they can produce professional typed programming that will be the brand of Los Alamitos can be proud of. We're thinking about moving the management, or we're going to explore the idea of moving the management of public access to an existing city department, possibly leveraging city dollars that way. We're thinking about providing a robust schedule by acquiring free programs from other sources, and we're also talking about sponsored programming by local businesses. We feel that there can be a private-public partnership that everybody can benefit by. And then lastly, we're looking at capitalizing the asset of local sports programming in Los Alamitos. And, you know, a lot's been there's been quite a bit of discussion about qualifications, so I'm going to let my partner Ernie sort of introduce us and our experience.
Yes. Individually, David and I have about 35 years of experience in government programming. I started off in public access, myself with Comcast Cablevision, and we did programming for the city of Santa Ana and Seal Beach. And from there, I moved on to the city of Long Beach, where I produced 9 different half-hour programs. Some were quarterly, some were monthly. And then I did media training for the city of Irwindale, and currently I'm a contractor with the city of Irvine. And David is also with the city of Irvine, and he also is the production coordinator and the producer of the 2013 and 2015 Solar Decathlon videos, one of which, the 2013 Solar Decathlon video, is now on PBS SoCal.
That's right. So one of the few city programs I think that's ever actually gone out to a venue like that to benefit the city in terms of promoting the upcoming event. Kind of an interesting program, and it worked, and it paid off. So one of the things that we're interested here at LATV3 is we're interested in this animal that has 3 designations. Your channel is designated, yes, as public access, but it's also designated as government programming, and it's also designated to be leased access if you so choose. And that brings up some pretty interesting possibilities, a chance to sort of innovate what kind of programming that you offer. We'll start out, I think, by just touching. I know we only want to be brief today, but we'll just touch on each one. Government programming first.
Yes. As far as government programming, there's city council and commission meetings. Those really need to stay because they're for the public to get informed, and they should be accessible to the general public when they're archived. But as far as getting more programs on the government side, you can get shared programming on regional issues and other statewide issues such as the drought, such as immunizations. There are a lot of government agencies that have videos that inform the public and can be used in the government access portion of LATV3.
The public access, we already mentioned earlier the idea that potentially we could leverage city dollars by using an existing city department to manage the public access in terms of the equipment designation and renting it out and keeping the equipment maintained. But we also really like the idea, and especially now more than ever that I see there seems to be a great deal of interest in some programming and some producers getting a chance to say what they want to on the air. I think it's a good time to point out that part of what we've been discussing and exploring already, and what we want to look at in this study is there's one channel, there's 3 designations, and those designations each are their own animals. They each have their own intentions, their own purposes, and I think it's important that we not mix programming so that it can be confused. So one of the things that we're going to look at is can we identify separate programming blocks as being either public access versus government access in order to have a designated separation? And can we then distribute them not only on the channel in program blocks that identify which is which, but also can we also distribute those in different other platforms such as internet channels that are separate? And that separation, in my opinion, allows the city to have a brand of programming that is professional and allows your community to be proud of the type of programming, quality program that you have. And then it allows any community member that would like to express their views in any way that they want to. And then, of course, lastly, designating the least access creates an opportunity for businesses to really get some great benefit from the channel as well. And just in terms of what we talked about in sponsored programs for the businesses, we'd like to actually go out, do some community outreach, and see how many businesses are interested in a variety of packages, which packages they might be interested in, and see if they can significantly offset the cost of the general fund by actually paying for sponsored programming.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the council?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
So this is for the city manager and for you guys, so if you guys can help. And by the way, thank you for coming tonight and going through this with us. I want to talk a little bit about this process. I looked at the RFQ that city sent out, and in that section there was 6 areas under scope of services. And the last item on there was the item that talked about the consultation services. Above that was daily operations and a bunch of other items that gets down. Then I went back through the RFP responses, and I guess the question I have is, when we sent out the RFQ, city manager, there was a timeline. It looked like we were just trying to qualify vendors and then get to a list of vendors and then get to scope of services at some point. And it seems like we went past that point to actually selecting a vendor and to the specific scope. I can't back into the $18,000 amount as a process. I don't see it anywhere in your response. I see a schedule of fees, and I see an engagement letter on the top that says of your interest. So can you guys talk to me about the process that we're going through, just so, because I honestly, I did not see a requirement or a request for an $18,000 consultative study. So either the staff report is miswritten or the contract, you guys don't understand what you're bidding on, and I just need to make sure I understand.
Yeah, it kind of, through, in terms of the due diligence we went through, we had 4 proposals that were submitted. 1 was non-responsive. 3 we interviewed, and we scored them. So we had a committee of myself, Jason Alamam, Steve Mendoza. We went through, we scored it. This firm was the highest score, the recommended firm that we have. We developed through the process, because it's really something that is unique, and we've discovered that, and we've learned a lot at the staff level about how the whole cable function works, and we came up with, once we identified the final vendor, identifying a scope and identifying a period over 90 days where we can get a deliverable product. So we want them to go out into the community in these different areas. They are going to interview the Cable Commission. They're going to go to the Cable Commission. They're going to go to the Recreation Cultural Arts Commission meeting. They're going to interview school district. They're going to interview businesses over this 90-day period, and we get a deliverable product at the end of that. So what we are hoping to achieve, the outcome is a deliverable product that we have a long-term plan that is as close to self-sustaining as we can get it. And that's what this firm, we've identified to do that.
Thank you, Brad. The RFQ didn't seem to request a specific deliverable. It really talked about a balance of the 6 services. So one of the questions I would have is the services embedded in that 18,000, or is that, because in one part of the staff report says that's for a consultant. The other one says that it's for a study. When we talk about the appropriations, you know, which I'm not sure where this money comes from, we have the $18,000, and it says specifically for the cable consultant. I can't differentiate between what is for the study, how much is operations. Can you guys give me some idea?
Yeah, I sure can, yeah. So I think the confusion is that there are actually 2 different proposal submittals. The original one was the RFQ, and then I believe there was an RFP as well. And is that correct? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. So the first one, what we actually, based upon reading the RFQ, it appeared that the city was looking for a management service for all of the cable services. So that was the first proposal that we made. It became clear to us, though, that even though that was a really relatively small budget, that it wasn't going to work for this particular city. So what we came back with was, all right, if you can't do that, which is, I believe the budget was, I don't know, it was less than $100,000 to run all of the events, you know, five events, all the city council meetings, you know, solicit for the least access. It was a lot of work. And so then we said, okay, so that's kind of a fun challenge, right? So basically what we want to figure out is how do we provide full programming for a city without a budget? And so that's when we started sort of going to the table and coming up with new ideas, and the result is then.
So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was actually about 15 to 20 events that we were supposed to cover in the original RFQ during our interviews.
So 5 of the 6 areas, I can't differentiate. The $18,000, and again, I'm just asking questions about the process. So we start out a process, we ask vendors out there the same 6 questions. You guys get, maybe after an initial consultation, get more direction that it needs to be specific to the consultation study. Did the other vendors get asked to evaluate a consultation study approach as or what you just said, a deliverable?
No, we
based?
narrowed it down to the one, and we then interviewed the one candidate, the final candidate. And that's what we have in front of us tonight. So we went back to the one after going through the process and have identified a scope moving forward.
In the scope you're focused on is just the consultative process?
Yeah,
first?
it is. It's to get us to that deliverable product. It's to get us to a full, hopefully, management. The end of the 90 days, we get a deliverable product from Skyline to manage the entire cable function on as close as we can to a cost-neutral basis.
So where I left off in this before, I left off when I voted for the RFQ. And we have a council that's struggling with how to run a day-to-day TV station. We have a commission that is great, got great people on it, and we're trying to find the best way to leverage that. I felt that the essence and spirit of the council problem was try to find a cost-effective way of doing it and solicit vendors to find out how much it would cost, and then bring those responses back to the council, and the council would evaluate that as one tool that we potentially could evaluate as different options. And definitely our staff, thinks 3 steps ahead of us, and they're now past that, analyzed it. The only problem is I don't think the public is caught up with that process, meaning us. So I'm still just trying to find the baseline of what it costs to run a TV station so I could compare it to what we pay today. What we pay today, I think, is somewhere probably around $25,000 a year that we have a consultant that is running, the stuff, and a commission that does a lot of the scheduling, as John Underwood had talked about, and the production in the community, the public access component of the 3 animals that you put in the pen as you put in your proposal. So I am struggling a little bit with the process. I honestly, I think the $18,000, if somebody just reads the RFQ and they read your response, and then they read the staff report, it looks like 3 different documents, and I'm concerned about the consistency to the community, and because it is such a hotbed item, people read this stuff and they compare it, and it's under a lot more scrutiny than maybe it should be, but it is. And so I think with that, I'm interested to hear what my colleagues say, but I'm struggling with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean?
For you guys, you made the comment here, David, I guess it is.
Yes, sir.
Or maybe it was Ernie, said that you work for the city of Irvine?
We're contractors there.
That's correct. We're private contractors.
Okay. But not as Skyline as individuals, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Skyline was started back in 2010, October of 2010.
Yes.
Okay. And I see 2 individuals that are doing independent contracting, but I see nothing that Skyline has done of this scope. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. City Manager, you go through 4 proposals, one of which was non-responsive, and you're bringing this company to us who's never done anything like this. Despite what experience they've had, as a company, they've done nothing. One of the individuals has done stuff for the city of Long Beach, the other has done stuff for the city of Irvine. Listening to their proposal just now, they're talking about leased access, which I think is a terminology that's been coming probably from staff in your guys' approach. They're talking about advertising, and I'd ask the city manager, when cable TV went through what it went through, and the PEG funds were limited, did they not, and were we not told that advertising wasn't legal? That a company cannot just legally advertise on there? They can sponsor a program, but they can't advertise. Is that correct?
Can we answer that?
I'm asking the city attorney.
Oh, I thought you were asking the city manager. I'm sorry.
No.
It's partially correct. I mean, you cannot have just straight advertising.
So if Judy Clebeau wanted to advertise Green Street Interiors,
No, but she could sponsor a program.
she could sponsor a program, but she can't advertise.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a distinction, but I'm not sure how much of a difference there is between the two.
These two gentlemen just made reference about there's only one channel, three purposes. Is there not two channels in our contract with Time Warner and Verizon?
We only have one channel that we are using through Time Warner and Verizon.
I do believe we have the right to insist
channels.
upon a second channel.
We have two channels. We can use either one of them. We're just using one, but we do have two channels.
Yeah, we're using one.
So what concerns me a little bit is we've got staff who doesn't understand what they're dealing with, puts out an RFQ, figures out one vendor, and starts negotiating with them. I'm questioning the legality based on the RFQ that other vendors aren't given the same opportunity in this particular process. City attorney, you can tell me, but I think that's illegal in the process of
No, I don't believe it is, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this RFQ it's called an RFQ, but it seems to be kind of a hybrid. It's a request for qualifications, but it also asks for monetary amounts. Therefore, it's partially a request for proposals as well. Secondly, because it is services, if only one of the four proposers is deemed qualified by the city, then there's no requirement that we offer the other three who we deem less qualified the right to make proposals.
Yet we're dealing with a company that's never done this.
Well,
And
that's
so
a question for the council.
That's fine, I'm just putting something out there. The $18,000 that you're proposing, there's nothing in this staff report that identifies that $18,000. They show labor rates of principals at $40 an hour, camera operators at $30, engineers at $42.50, editing at $35, talent at $25, mileage at 30 cents a mile, copying at 8 cents a copy, doing DVDs, paper copies, doing DVDs at $5. Where did the $18,000 come from?
We can have the
Well,
consultants go through.
Mr. City Manager, I'm asking you. You're the one that put it forward. You should know, does this encompass at $40 an hour up to $18,000?
It's based on it's based on their hourly rate and the estimated number of hours that it will take to develop the scope that's included in the staff.
And how many hours is that?
Jason, do you have an estimated?
I don't have that with me.
Sloppy. Excuse me, but sloppy. I don't agree with it. You've also, and nothing in the RFP talked about moving management to a local city department where they would coordinate leasing of equipment and training. I'm assuming since the Parks and Recreation Commission is one of the ones they're going to interview, you're talking about moving this to Parks and Recreation.
No, I mean, that's not determined. That's part of what they need to analyze as they look at the entire cable function. Part of the due diligence that they will do, they'll interview the Cable Commission, they'll go through that producer pool, they'll interview each commissioner, they'll get ideas, they'll go to the Recreation and Cultural Arts Commission, they'll interview them, they'll get ideas. We've already, if the council approves this, we've already asked for them to schedule their time in this first 90 days to go to those upcoming meetings. So it definitely hasn't been determined to move anything anywhere.
They know-
It's part of the potential analysis.
They reported that.
They reported that's something that they will look at. Where does the cable, what should the scope of the cable function be? Where does the cable function belong? What is the role of the cable commission? What training, volunteer programs, all of that will be explored. That's all of what they're looking at.
Why wasn't the Cable Commission involved in this?
They were involved in terms of, we took the RFQ to the Cable Commission, they reviewed, we took the RFP originally based on the direction from the council. They made the recommendation, as Mr. Underwood stated, to shift it from an RFP to an RFQ. We did do that. Commissioner Underwood also submitted a memorandum of his recommendations on how to dovetail into this process. We included that in the RFQ. We also took it to the ad hoc committee. So we did, it was before Commissioner Hammond was on the commission that we did take the RFQ to the commission, and Commissioner Underwood was on that commission at that time.
Understand that. But since you got the proposals back, you're bypassing the commission, which is our representative on cable matters, and you're bringing it directly to us. Is there a reason that you're bypassing the commission?
It's just timing. It's been a long time since the council had given the direction back to the staff on the full scope.
I totally
And so it's been an evolving process. It's something that is really, it was really difficult to even find consultants that were out there. We've learned a lot at the staff level, and we have identified, working with this final consultant, we've identified a scope which we think we can work to deliver a product which we can bring a
I still question,
long-term
I
plan
still
back to
question
the
the $80,000. Are they going to interview these people at $40 an hour? Is that per individual that's going to come, so it's $80 an hour? That they're going to sit down and interview the commission as a whole, as an individual?
They will
interview the
charge us
council?
based on their hourly rate and the number of hours that are provided. We will get a monthly invoice from them and an update that to ensure that they are adhering to the scope that is included in the agreement.
Okay. Have you seen any samples of any of the work that they've done?
We have talked to them quite a bit. We have reviewed, we've listened to them on the programs that they have developed. We were very encouraged in terms of the expertise that they have and the 35 years of experience and what they could bring to LATV and the recommendation. That was very encouraging, and that we feel that they could deliver a good product.
And none of the others had anywhere near comparable experience?
This firm out of the 4 scored the highest.
Well, there are only 3 that you interviewed.
Right.
Okay.
One was unresponsive, and the other 3,
I'm
this
talking,
firm
I'm
scored
talking
high.
the 3.
Right.
Okay. One of them is Mr. Woods, who's been doing this now for the city as an independent contractor for 4 years, 5 years?
He's been doing
More?
parts of it
Yeah.
for the city.
Okay. So you've got, you know what's being done that way. You don't even have samples from these folks to see what it is they've done, what they're saying they can do. The company hasn't done this.
The company has not, the individuals have.
Yeah, but we're not contracting with the individuals, we're contracting with their sole proprietorship.
That's correct.
Okay. Nothing in here talks about, that I can see, talks about studio productions. They want to add an engineer for council meetings. I don't think they understand in reality what is involved with what's going on. I have some concerns that they've got contracts with other cities where there may be a conflict. I think part of the agreement that's put together here talks about no competing types of situations, so I don't know, are they planning to terminate their agreements with these other cities as individuals, or are you going to allow them to do that?
You would have to ask them. I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm not looking for an answer. I think I know.
I can answer part of that. I mean,
Okay.
The contract, the professional services agreement is basically the city's form PSA, and that says that they won't take on any new additional clients that would create a conflict. It says nothing about current, and of course, they're prohibited from conflicts of interest, even between current.
Well, you make reference on page 2 of the RFQ about programming of the communities of Los Alamitos and Rossmore. To the best of my knowledge, we don't do programming for Rossmore. They don't seem to understand that public access, that any entity can walk in with a CD or a DVD and turn it over to the engineer, and it's expected to be played on the air. We don't really have a whole lot of options. We do have 24 hours. The commission has established a process where community events have priority, yet we're running church services out of Long Beach because one of the commissioners is selling that to the church, and he's bicycling in that particular contract.
That's part of the scope of what they'll be looking at is the programming. What type of programming do we legally have to do? What type of programming do they recommend as a marketing tool? So as they learn the community, they're going to go out and they're going to make a recommendation on the type of programming.
Those are laws that currently exist that dictate that, to the best of my knowledge. This is where we got sued right after I went
Yeah,
on
I mean, if
council.
it's public access, from a First Amendment standpoint, we're very restricted on what we can disallow. So, but in terms of programming overall for LATV, they're going to look at and make their, based on the interviews that they do and the research that they do, make their recommendation back to the council on what type of programming should exist for LATV.
Well, you talk in your RFQ about Rossmore that currently we're airing Los Alamitos City Council meetings, LAUSD board meetings, Rossmore Community Service board meetings, which we're not getting any PEG money from the county for that particular process. Los Alamitos High School football games and a variety of programs aired as public access. Football games are covered separately under the agreement with the trash contract, which will go through the term of the trash contract at this particular point.
Right now, the sports programming is being subcontracted out by Direct Community Video. So, and part of the funding that's coming from that is $6,500 that had come from Republic Services. That is, they will look at that. They will look at sports programming as part of the entire function. If that's something that they recommend we continue on with, we could continue contracting with Direct Community Video for that. And that's something that they're going to look at the entire scope of sports programming. It used to be done by Larry Strothers. It used to be he would do the entire football game. He would do the announcing. And we went out with an RFP for that process. We received one vendor that quoted and bid on it, and the council entered into an agreement for Direct Community Video. And they're doing highlights. It's half-hour highlights. We've received positive comments. We haven't received really negative comments, but it's something that they need to look at and make a recommendation as part of the scope of the whole thing.
On the contract itself, there's a section, I guess, I don't know, I'm looking at the 10-page agreement, that they have to provide insurance, and I'll ask the city attorney this question because I don't see it identified, but it's a note that I made under section 11.1.1 on the comprehensive general liability of insurance of not less than $1 million. Is that specified as claims made or occurrence-based insurance? That's on page 5.
Yes, I'm looking not just at 11.1 though, because I believe it's covered in another portion of 11.
While you're looking, I would hope that this and any future insurance requirements that we put out on any vendors or any city contracts, that it's identified that it must be occurrence-based insurance versus claims made. And if they only can get claims made, that a clause is added that they have to provide the tail on the insurance at the time that they settle that agreement.
And I believe that every one that I've reviewed is occurrence-based, whether I'm not just glancing through it, I'm not finding it in the
I
insurance section
understand.
right now.
But it should be occurrence-based for this one and any other contracts. On number 14 on page 7, permits and approvals, the consultant shall obtain at its sole cost and expense all permits, regulatory approvals, et cetera. Do we require, under these types of agreements, that they also have a city business license?
Yes, we typically do.
So I can assume that this will require a city business license? Yes. Okay. Under number 19 on page 10, prevailing wage law, I question why that's in here. That prevailing wage law really relates only to public works and maintenance type projects. This isn't a maintenance, it's a consulting type contract. Are we going to require that they use prevailing wages on any of these people that they put on to do programming, et cetera? Or is that just boilerplate that's in there and it really doesn't apply?
I believe it's boilerplate and doesn't really apply to this type of contract.
Okay. I would hope somehow we can note that if it's not applicable, even though it is a boilerplate. On the scope of services on Exhibit A, leased programming, I'm kind of caught up in the term of what leased programming is. We heard from the American Legion that they want to put on programs. We heard that Mr. Brandenberry wants to do some programs for CASA. I think most of the nonprofits in the town, including the Chamber of Commerce, want to put on programs, and typically there's been a fee associated with that that offsets the cost. Most of the crew is volunteered. Are we now going to change this approach and they now have to lease the equipment in order to do that? This is apparently what you're asking them to come back with. You've made reference in here that they'll work with the city, the chamber, nonprofit, school district, the local business community, and others to establish contracts. I think the military ought to be included in that because at one time there was discussion of a studio being located over there. I don't see much in here about retention of a studio where people can actually come in and use the equipment and produce programs. That's been one of the things that was part of LATV in the past. The City Council did approve the use of the small building in the back over there as a studio. Right now, it's not being used because the council's not approved the equipment buy. I would assume once the vendor goes through and determines whether or not the equipment on that list is valid, that equipment can go ahead and be purchased and allow that studio to be functioning, whether it's there or somewhere else. So
I think in terms of the analysis of the equipment, they'll definitely take a look at the list that was developed by Commissioner Underwood and make their recommendation. I mean, some of it probably will stay, but that's part of the scope of what they'll be doing. They'll look at, in terms of the equipment, whether it's needed for a studio, whether a studio is needed, whether it can be mobile equipment that can be taken to whoever is paying for the production of that particular show, or if it has to be in the cable studio, or if it can be on site. Because we've heard feedback from several of the producers on that list that they would prefer that if a show is done, that it's done on site rather than it's done in the studio. So it's part of what they'll be looking at.
I understand, but I don't see anything again in this scope that talks about the van that we have an investment in. And just to help clarify, the list that was submitted to the council was put together by the ad hoc technical committee to the commission and was approved 4-1 by the commission, or 4-0, I think, approved by the commission to the city council to go ahead and procure that equipment.
I think it kind of morphed into that, but it was the most recent list, which was brought forward by Commissioner Underwood, was a list of equipment, about $39,000. The commission voted 4-0 to move it forward and bring it to the council. We brought it to the council. The council said hold off until we can bring back a plan for a comprehensive plan, and that's what morphed into the RFQ. So they will look at that.
It was developed by the tech committee and negotiated out Mr. Strother was involved in that
That
as
was
well.
another one, that was a different one. There
Same.
was one done at that time, and then that kind of morphed into the most recent one. And I think Commissioner Underwood took that list and modified it, and he's even talked about since then the potential for modifying it again as the technology changes, which is what they will look at. And I think that they will work very well in collaboration with the Cable Commission. They will identify where the Cable Commission, what the role should be, what they can do moving LATV forward, and I think they will supplement it.
I understand. The Cable Commission is defined in a city ordinance, so what they come back with, if they want to change it, eliminate it, enhance it, still has to go back because
It
it
would,
is-
if
because
that
of
was the
city
recommendation.
ordinance.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have for right now.
And
Thank you.
if I may respond briefly on the insurance question, in my opinion, Section 11.1 requires the insurance to cover any damages occurring during the time of coverage. So it's not claims-based, but rather it does protect the city for anything that occurs during the time of the contract.
I understand. One last thing that I noticed too. Under payments on section 2, or I'm sorry, page 2, section 6.3. Payments of any services requested made by the consultant and time and materials. It gives them the ability, consultant shall be entitled to increase the fees in this fee schedule at such time as it increases its fees for its clients generally. And that's very poor, too. This is a 90-day agreement. These fees should be fixed for 90 days. There shouldn't be any increase in 90 days. It's not fair to the city to have them come back in 30 days and say, oh, by the way, we're going to increase the rates because we're increasing them to all of ours. If this was a long-term agreement, I can see that kind of language, but this is not a long-term agreement. And I would hope that that language gets struck out of this and that the fees are fixed for the 90 days if that's what this agreement approves. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions, and I promise I'll be brief. To Skyline, your needs assessment, does that include studio, broadcast, and field operations?
Yes, all aspects of operations.
Okay, I know we've talked a lot about studio operations, but we've got a gaping hole in broadcast operations and also some major upgrades needed in our field operations, all three of which are vital to any TV station, big or small. And then to city manager, do other commissions, city commissions, do they review RFPs that come under their purview, such as does Park and Rec review the RFP that goes, or the RFP responses that go out to fireworks or to the online registration that we just implemented? Is that a normal process for
No,
other
it's not
commissions?
typical for the commissions to review their RFPs.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't bypassing the Cable Commission, but that's normal process when RFP responses come back. City staff review it and then make recommendations to city council for approval.
Yeah, that's correct. And I told the Cable Commission, I mean, I explained the process that we've been going through and the due diligence that we've been going through, and explained that we did review the RFQ with the Cable Commission and that we were under the direction of the council and we need to bring back a proposal to the council.
Okay. And then I know it was mentioned by Councilmember Gross, the asking for city experience, but then also requiring that there's no conflict of interest. Are other cities considered competition to us or a conflict to us in a service agreement like this?
Other cities in terms of what?
Whether it be a conflict of interest, if they're doing the same thing for City of Irvine or City of Huntington Beach, and then they sign on to do it for us, would that be considered a conflict
I don't think
of
so.
interest?
No, because, I mean, that just helps, their expertise that they've learned in other cities helps them do what they can do for us here.
Right.
I don't see it as a conflict at all.
Okay. And then also, in comments from Commissioner Underwood, I was on the Cable Commission when this RFP came to the commission, and we purposely changed it to an RFQ because we couldn't develop a scope for cable television management. We didn't have either the expertise or the agreement. We certainly didn't lack passion. We just couldn't get it done. So
It's
we
definitely an animal that's difficult to define.
Right,
and we-
regardless of all of our experience, and we all had tremendous experience from network television, which is my background, to John, which is LATV background. I mean, we all definitely had experience, but we just couldn't get together that vision to figure out how to manage this beast. So basically, I mean, you know, this $18,000, this is basically for a report, a vision document, correct?
Yes.
So from this, the next steps after this, if we approve it, will that vision document then be placed into an RFP for implementation of that vision?
Well, what we envision is this would be the consultant that will bring back a long-term plan, and this will be the consultant to manage that. I mean, if we have something that is as close to cost neutral as we can, this would be the consultant that we would recommend the council go forward with in the future. I mean, and if you would have an option, we have the deliverable product, and you would have an option at the end of that to either move forward with this consultant managing all of the cable operations, or go out with an RFP at that time with the scope that has been developed.
But wouldn't we almost have to go out to an RFP because it's a separate scope, it's an operational scope as opposed to a study or, I mean, I think legally we would have to go out to an RFP, correct? I mean, we couldn't just piggyback on this RFQ and saying, great report, now let's procure you for implementation of your recommendations.
I envision we would be able to use this consultant, but I'd turn to the city attorney for that.
Again, this is a services contract. It is possible that we would be able to use this consultant without going out with a new RFP for it.
Would that come back to council then for us to
Yes.
recommend?
Definitely.
Okay, all right. So basically, I mean, it boils down to one question in my head. I mean, are we as a council willing to pay $18,000 for a vision document that we've never been able to create internally? So, on that.
Warren?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for this report, and Skyline as well. So, if I understand some of the questions from the council, it sounds like the process was qualify the vendors and then enter into a cost kind of negotiation or establishing the cost. Is that kind of the process?
Yes,
And
that's
so the first go through is you had 4 potential vendors, 3 had submitted offers, and then your scoring system, which we've done on certain other things, would be some kind of weighted assessment of each of the different categoricals, and then come up with perhaps a point total. Is that kind of how the process was?
Yes, exactly.
And then the RFP itself, RFQ, was issued out in public, so there's no, I mean,
Yes,
members
we
of the public-
advertised it, we sent it, we mailed it, we emailed it.
And then the other part that I thought was revealing, this did go through the TV commission for inputs and then shaping and forming and all that. So despite what we heard earlier in public comments, it sounds like there was a very open process.
It did, yes, it did go to the Cable Commission.
Okay, all right. I guess in terms of the work product, the scope is fairly well understood. I understand there's going to be a paper product, a visioning document, as Council Member Hasselbrink had said. So that's something we can expect to see. And I'm kind of excited to see what we end up getting at the end of the process. So I think I'm good. I'm kind of curious, though, for Council Member Hasselbrink. So having served on the TV Commission and unable to really come up with this a visioning document, do you think this is the product that we need to see to be able to then move to the next phase?
In purely my opinion, we've been trying to do this on a commission level, and sitting on that side of the dais, hearing council trying to do this too, all agreeing that we just can't seem to get this document. And because we can't get this document, we can't create action items to move forward. So here we sit 2 years later, from my own personal experience, still talking about what is LATV? What is it going to do? How are we going to make more money? How are we going to be revenue neutral? And if we're going to continue LATV and make it thrive and make it self-sustaining, we need somebody to come up with a document, and internally, we've been unable to do it. Are we willing to spend $18,000 out of this year's budget, I believe, because this is before June 30th?
Yes, that's correct.
Are we willing to spend that to take the recommendations and move forward with LATV?
Thank you. So I guess in that vein, so kind of ballpark, again, to me, this may be more of an investment in this, and the fundings are already allocated and set aside, right? Is it the...
Yeah, this would be, what we are asking for is approval of the agreement and an appropriation of $18,000 from the
But
general fund.
there is a color of money that already exists for this purpose? We just
Not
need
for, this
appropriate-
is general fund.
General
This-
fund?
This is all
Okay,
general
so
fund.
we cannot use the PEG fund for this one?
No.
Wow, okay. I understand that part. Okay, so, yeah, I think, when I think about how many labor hours have been expended on this one thing, LATV3, the commission, commissioners, the tech committee, I know your predecessors have spent an inordinate amount of time dealing with things. So I think this may be that time, colleagues, that we make that investment, get this thing all put down in a visioning kind of document, get our minds around that, and then move forward. Some of the things I heard from the Skyline media, I think would be very interesting to see how they might put together a plan. So with that, I'll see. I'll end up supporting this, and we'll see where the rest of it go. Now, just on to separate questions, and perhaps then the city attorney, city manager, if you can figure out how to do this. I'm concerned about what was said earlier by members of the public and the chair of the LATV Commission about letters of intents that have been issued by members of the community, I guess partners in the community. My question would be, in what capacity would these letters of intent be? I would like a request of whoever, if it's the letters of intent were entered with the chair of the LATV Commission, I'd certainly like those to be within the city in your purview. And if they're between private members and producers, I certainly would request that we get a copy of those things. But I am concerned that there may be an obligation had been formed or an expectation, whether it was overtly stated. But a letter of intent to me sounds like one of those things that I intend to do this if you do something else for me. So I'd like to get that all at least established. And I'm concerned about a chair of a commission perhaps not clearly representing how they might go forward and enter into letters of intent. So that one I'd like to see as a separate matter, if you can get that to the council. And with that, it looks like my colleague, Councilmember Gross, would like, I'll yield to you.
I just want to answer that part of it, because I believe part of the discussion that occurred within the commission, maybe Shelley can weigh in on that too, was, is there support in the community to do public access programming? And with that in mind, I believe Mr. Underwood went out and asked a variety, including the chamber. I know the Rotary Club
okay,
was asked.
If I may get the floor back then. So with that, I still would like the question answered, because if that's indeed how it happened, I would think that'd be a record in the commission, correct? And I did ask a question earlier if the letters of intent had been issued to the commission, and I got the negative that had not been. So
The city hasn't entered into any agreement.
That
Commissioner
part's
Underwood
correct.
brought forward a
Okay, so-
producer's pool, a producer's
I understand, but I'm asking for that, the collection of letters of intent. So that'd be something I am concerned about. Just to put it that way. With that, I'll back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Brett, when I brought this forward as an RFP, my intent was to have professionals tell us if they were LATV, what would they do? That was where I started. Then it changed to an RFQ down the road, and I want to ask, first, did we get the kind of response you were hoping for in general?
Well, I would have hoped for even more. I mean, we really reached out and to surrounding cities, to the PCTA, to cable experts that I identified along the way, the Cable Commission. We asked, and Commissioner Underwood gave us a couple of names as well. And I was hoping to get more, but we did get 4. We did get a good group. And we were able to get 3 out of that 4 that were responsive, so I was encouraged by that. I'm encouraged that your original vision of what can experts do for LATV, that's what we're presenting to you tonight. And I feel comfortable with that, and I feel comfortable with Skyline meeting that objective.
Okay. And Skyline, thank you for coming, for your patience tonight. Let's talk money, if we could, for a moment. Obviously, as you said it was passion. I'm not sure you knew how passionate it was when you came here. But you know, LATV has a long history and was instrumental in saving us from Prologis recently. And could you describe what the $18,000 is going to do? And let me tell you where I'm going so you can consider it in your answer. And that's, instead of 3 months, what would happen if you did 2 months? And what would happen if it was $5,000 a month, so for like a total of $10,000? What would we miss? What's the extra money going to get for us as we try to scale up the contract?
Well, I think we'd be starting over I think we'd have to start the whole thing over to kind of figure out, okay, well, you know, we'd have to have a different contract, right?
Yes, when you say start over, I don't understand.
Well, in other words, we've been in the process of trying to figure out, you know, how to best serve the city's needs.
Okay.
And based on, this has been an ongoing process, and so we've spent quite a bit of time already and quite a bit of research and quite a bit of personal resources to understand the animal to the point that we do now. So, you know, 3 months was the amount of time that we thought that we needed to really get into the community and do some outreach and meet the right people and make some offers and put some, you know, packages together. So, you know, what would you miss? I don't know. I'd have to go back. I guess I'm just saying, I apologize, but I'm just not prepared to give you a hard answer for that right now.
What would happen if we approved a contract for less? Can you live with that?
Probably not. I
Okay.
think it's a really fair offering. We do bring a lot of experience, and we do bring a lot of creativity, innovation, and I think, you know, I think we can do a great job for the city. I think we can make this community really bond around this channel and make it something they can all be proud of, all participate in. And I think we can make it a net zero channel. So having said that, you know, probably not, you know, willing to do it for a lot less. I've just got a lot invested already, and
Yeah. What would you say the bottom line number is? You think you need the 3 months?
I'd like the 3 months. I suppose there's some negotiation if we're willing to take off some of the insurance requirements. We could go dollar for dollar on that.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. Okay. Any other comments? Dean?
You know, what concerns me is that it seems like we're being offered a flat fee, not an hourly fee. It's not a matter of not to exceed $18,000. They've put in here prices for personnel that, for study purposes, aren't even required. They're not going to need engineers, they're not going to need camera operators, technical directors, things of this nature. Somewhere, based on the mayor's comments, $18,000 fits into this. A quick calculation at $40 an hour for $18,000, that's 450 hours. And I'm not sure that even you, Mr. City Manager, or your committee that looked at this understand what you're going to get for 450 hours. They're going to submit monthly invoices that identify what it is, but is the best interests of the city and the taxpayers' money being served here? Or are we just agreeing to an $18,000 fee to come up with a report in 90 days, which may or may not be the product that we're looking for to move this thing forward?
I think what the Councilmember Hasselbrink described it well. It is an end product. We're getting an end product for $18,000. We will get monthly invoices. I've talked to Jason about it. We will talk to the consultants. We'll make sure that we are paying for the scope that we are entering into in the professional services agreement. We make sure that that matches or we don't pay. So we have an ongoing, we'll have monthly invoices. We will review the scope. We will make sure that they are adhering to the plan, but we're going to get an end product, a vision of LATV, and for $18,000.
I wanted to add too, I'm not sure if this helps, but I went back through my notes, and the $18,000 was based upon a $1,500 amount per week over what we thought, I think the scope of work would take 12 weeks. So 12 weeks times $1,500 a week. So that was just an estimate that they put together based upon how much time they thought it would take to provide us with an end product. But at the end of the day, it's a flat dollar amount. It's $18,000 for the deliverable and the scope of work.
And under 5.1, it is a maximum unless the city approves. The last line of that provision on page 1, in no event shall the total compensation and costs payable to consultant under this agreement exceed the sum of $18,000 unless specifically approved in advance and in writing by city.
Okay. We've been at this an hour. Eventually, we're going to have to decide if this is the direction we want to go. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation so we can have the vote and see where we are. Would anybody second?
I'll second this.
Second.
May I suggest an amendment to remove the language in the second sentence of 6.3 regarding increases in fees that Councilman Gross was talking about?
That was a good idea, sure. So I'll amend my motion to include that.
And the second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Two. Opposed?
No.
Okay, passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies to the general plan people. We thought that was going to be the short version of the two. Stephen, I feel there should be like trumpets and drums going off as this has taken years to get here, and it's up to you now.
I think the general plan has taken up too much space in that laptop as well as the projector, so we'll give the projector a little time to catch up to me if you don't mind. Thank you, City Council and members of the public. This is a long term coming. That's probably why I'm going to stand here and do this presentation. I hope you don't mind. But this is an exciting time for Los Alamitos. I remember 4+ years ago sitting in a room with Troy and Warren and looking at proposals for companies to draft the general plan. If you remember, we went through a number of proposals. Your coffee tables and your dining room tables were covered with those proposals until we got down to selecting one proposal, one agreement, and one contract to manage the City of Los Alamitos' general plan. And here tonight you have a culmination of that 4 years of work. And I'm going to introduce the people that have helped do this. Colin Drucker is with PlaceWorks. You may remember it was formerly the Planning Center. And we have Steve Gunnels, the economist with PlaceWorks. We have Nicole Morris. She assisted with the environmental impact report. And I also have to thank Lisa Kranitz, who came on later in on the process with the general plan. And I really appreciate her work and the work of 21 commissioner members throughout the community, a number of stakeholders in the community, countless members of the public that came forward to represent their ideas of a new Los Alamitos and what they wanted to see. With that, we will move forward on our presentation and talk about the general plan. The general plan was presented to you in large binders about 3 weeks ago. You have the complete document in one binder, also with the final environmental impact report. The final environmental impact report is about this thick, and then the draft impact report is about this thick. So those two documents together equal the final EIR. Now, in your agenda packet that was delivered to you, you have your staff report and 2 resolutions. In with those resolutions are some supplemental data to help you render a decision and support some of the findings in the resolutions. So tonight we're going to talk about what is a general plan. If my projector would go. You know, the best laid plans, huh? Okay, what have we done? We're going to go over what have we done. We're going to go over the overview of key changes, the EIR, and next steps. What is the general plan? Every city and county has a general plan. They must prepare it. It should evolve and grow in the future about 15 to 10 years. It's called a general plan for a reason, because it is very general. It's not laws. It's not implementing laws. It's implementing plans, goals, and policies for the city. It guides the city council, city commissions, and staff. What a general plan isn't. It's not zoning. It's not design guidelines, and it does not focus on short-term actions. It's 20-year document to help you get where you want to be in 20 years. It doesn't talk about how to maintain a center median. It tells us that you want good center medians. What does the general plan address? It has 7 elements that are required by law, a growth management element as well, an optional element of the economic development. Economic development is very important for Los Alamitos. Our diversity in revenue sources are very important. We want to make sure we have a long-term strategy to implement that. And for the first time ever, it includes the city and the sphere of influence of Rossmoor. If you remember, LAFCO made a decision years ago that Rossmoor would be in our sphere of influence, so we are obligated to place it in our general plan for the first time. Why is the general plan so important? It's planning versus reacting, it's long-term versus short-term, and it helps you compete with any statewide or legal challenges. People wonder why you make a certain decision regarding bikeways. Well, because our general plan actually provides the basis and the foundation and the policy for us to make these decisions regarding bikeways. If down the pipe you decide to work on bikeways. So it helps you make decisions in the future. What are some of the related plans? Capital improvement plans. If you have capital improvement plans that really talk about increasing capacities on streets or decreasing capacities on streets or encouraging walkability in the street, where do you look for that guidance? You look to the general plan for that guidance when you're implementing a capital improvement plan. If, let's say your general plan outreach dictated that your city was worried about public safety. Well, there's a policy in there about public safety, increasing opportunities for public safety. It also helps you qualify for financing by having some regional plans on here and making sure that your general plan is compatible with some of the OCTA funding and other regional funding that you may apply for in the future. If you can go move forward. Who uses the general plan? Again, city council, commissions, and staff. It's probably notorious to say that planning departments usually use the general plan only, but not in this city. This city, Corey is very tied into the general plan, so is the chief of police. They're very tied into the general plan and make sure it represents their department values and took them where they wanted to go as well. Individuals and businesses, it could help an individual plan for the future use of his land based on decisions in the general plan. And investors and developers look to the community for guidance of how their property would be used and how their neighboring properties would be used and developed in the future. Outreach. You're probably all very aware of the outreach that we did for this project. We did online info, we did 28 stakeholder interviews, we created focus groups, 5 open houses, and we took those around the city in various locations. We didn't sit in our office waiting for them to come to us. We held some very successful locations, especially the St. Isidore one. I think that was the best. And that was right when St. Isidore was trying to establish a new identity for themselves. So it helped new people discover St. Isidore. And then we had 33 different commission meetings and council meetings. That includes 3 commissions working jointly together to bring this project forward to the city council. The analysis. We looked at the existing conditions in our city, opportunities and constraints, economic and fiscal analysis, general plan priorities, and build-out projections. How big do we want Los Alamitos to be? How many residents do we project to have in 20 years? go for it. And then we started looking at opportunity sites and a draft land use plan. Eventually, we had to look at our key priorities, and this is what came out of the key priorities. Maintain a high level of safety and service. Wow, that really helps if you're trying to make sure that your police department has what it needs. Introducing pedestrian bridges. We want to make sure that kids are separated from cars. Number 3, attractive and pedestrian-friendly commercial corridors. I think you know how to use that priority right there, and that priority has been placed into your goals of the general plan for using it on Los Alamitos Boulevard currently. Maximize retail opportunities along Catella. Relocate City Hall. Again, when somebody asks you why you're making the decision of relocating City Hall, it's been incorporated in our outreach and reflected in our general plan to make that decision. Incentives to preserve and attract business. We're always interested in that. Some of the programs we had a couple of years ago, we were helping businesses out by rebating some of the money spent in those businesses for home improvement. Improve the look and identity of the city. That's, again, a priority of the City Council, and it's consistent with what we heard during our outreach. Consistent and effective code enforcement. That's always important. We have a part of our community that's aging. We have 70-year-old apartments along Apartment Row, and we've got to make sure that we have enough staff and enough systems in place to address that. Good relationships with our school district, more open space, park trails, and recreation areas, and evaluating annexation carefully, and establishing centralized parking, enhancing cultural issues, and historic preservation. Those are the key priorities that came out, and you could see in the matrix how they cross over into the areas of local government, urban design, economic development, and public safety. You'll see all those right in the center. Next. Overview of key changes. What's different about our general plan? It presents a citywide vision. Los Alamitos is attractive. The city is comprised of well-maintained neighborhoods. Los Alamitos hosts the town center, and the city is home to successful businesses with a diverse tax base. It's one of the things we want to make sure. We have a very diverse tax base. We have TOT, property tax, sales tax. Very diverse bases, and in our approvals and City Council's approvals of projects over the last few years, you've been looking at all of that diversity when you approve projects like the hospital expansion. Next. Los Alamitos, oh, can you go back one? Is it too late? And then we maintain a system of streets and trails that are safe for everyone and every form of transportation, be it that they walk, bike, ride transit, or drive. No longer will the car get the priority. Everyone gets mentioned in this vision. Land use. Allow for intensification of Los Al and Catella. Promote more vibrant corridors. Focus medical office around the medical campus. Increase commercial opportunities by City Hall and Catella right here on this property that we're at. Increase residential opportunities on Sausalito. Enhance the sense of civic pride and identity. Your economic development priorities require new development to be physically neutral and positive. Protect economic viability and attract and retain skilled jobs. Leverage the medical center as a key anchor and create quality retail and parking environments. The open space and recreation element now reflects this. Establish a goal of 5 acres per 1,000 residents. Maintain and improve uses to define communities' quality of life and continue the expand joint facility use approaches. All of these things you're already doing. This isn't a stretch for you. Support preservation and mobility and circulation, making it safe to travel by bike, car, or foot. Protect neighborhoods. Maximize safe routes to school, something we're very interested in. Expand and improve bicycle and pedestrian systems and provide right amount of convenient parking. Public facilities and safety, reliable and cost-effective infrastructure systems. High-quality emergency services, prevent noise compatibility issues, huge in our city with the industrial base that we have. And work with the school district and medical center to continue pursuit of excellence. Growth management, we want to know where we're going. We want to make sure we have new development that pays for their fair share when they have road offsite improvements that they're paying for it. One of the examples is the new swimming pool project over on Cerritos. They're paying their fair share of every sidewalk, every roadway, every trenching that they do in the public right-of-way. The city's taxpayer dollars are not being used for that. Collaborate with the JFTB and the school district. We're always doing that. We did that this evening at 5 o'clock. embrace Rossmore as their sphere of influence, and provide services if and when Rossmore chooses to be contract with us or to be annexed. Doesn't say we're going to annex them. It says that we have some policies in place. Now, those are the policies for us to implement for the next 20 years. How do we do it? Well, a new land use plan helps develop the land use policies. We went through opportunity sites. We looked at a number of properties in the city. The Planning Commission took especially care in this area. Go to the next slide. In looking at 10 opportunity sites around the city. Go ahead. They looked at the Cerritos area on the channel. There's 2 industrial properties over there near the Olson project. And they came out with a recommendation to change that to multifamily residential. Next. Then they took a look at the limited industrial area. We knew there was a wave of exercise and fitness places that were looking to be in Los Alamitos, and we wanted to provide a centralized location within the industrial area. And this is what the commission agreed and is recommending to City Council, that these 3 areas, 2A, 2B, and, no, both 2A and 2B. 2As, those areas will be shifting over to recreation, overlays, kind of. I use the word overlay, but it's really not an overlay. It's just going to be allowable uses. And here, the commission decided to leave the post office and the schoolyard the same as they are now, which are planned light industrial. Next slide. The vacant Center Plaza lot right here, or right there. We call it the piano lot. You'll see that it looks like a baby grand piano. Planning Commission made no change to that. They kept it retail business. Next. Old Town East. They looked at Old Town East in the residential area and decided to maybe take advantage of its proximity to some other businesses and allow for future live work in there. Now, while the general plan lays the foundation for that, we have to go back and change zoning to allow that. So the use table will have an extra segment on that, allowing for live work over in that area. Next, medical center area. The commission had looked at some of the industrial properties adjacent to the medical center or surrounding the back, said that would be a great opportunity for a medical overlay, and recommended to the City Council that that become medical as well in that area. Still allows industrial, but it also allows an extra use if they wanted to have that. Next. The town center. The town center is what we call the 4 corners, but we only have the right to rezone 3 corners. So the 4 corners are going towards mixed use, and then this corner right here, which is in Rossmore, is suburban residential, which is the exact definition it is at the county level. We're not messing with theirs. We're leaving it the same. Next. The next is Super Media and the Civic Center site. That's the site we're on right now, and that's going to go retail business. That was the Planning Commission recommendation, and I think everyone's on board with that. We'll move forward. And some of the flood control areas, we looked at keeping that open space. Didn't think it had any reason to change, and the commission agreed with that. The commission also looked at some of the base housing, and that was formerly zoned multifamily, and going to take it to community institutional to be compatible with some of our goals regarding that site. I want to remind the council that after Colin finishes this project, he works right towards a visioning document for the base. Arrowhead Products. This is a project that we studied heavily in the EIR as full retail. We decided to back off full retail and go with a retail overlay, which satisfied the owner of the property and satisfied the public and the commissions in moving towards a potential future use if the applicant was ever interested in it. The applicant could tier off of our environmental impact report that actually shows the potential for retail there, and they'll be able to have that. We have an attorney in the audience tonight representing Arrowhead, and so far, at least before tonight, they supported the retail overlay. Susan, no, not putting you on the spot. The EIR. I'm going to go through a little fast. I hope you don't mind. Environmental Impact Report studies the impacts of all these land use changes in the city. You have a large document that came to the conclusion that it did have impacts, and there would be some impacts you would not be able to overcome, and therefore we had to mitigate those. So with that, we will move forward and talk. This is the process that the EIR went through. This is today right here. You'll see where we've come from in circulating the document. The document has been available to the public for, wow. Notice of prep has been out for a year. Move forward, please. Issues analyzed in the aesthetics, air quality, cultural resources, land use, noise, every part of the, every element of the CEQA process has been analyzed. There's been technical studies done. Colin? And then issues that were actually analyzed and raised to a level of analysis are air quality, greenhouse gas, noise, and transportation. I don't think anyone's surprised by any of those with some of the recent greenhouse gas laws that have been passed in California. Go ahead. We saw some of the impacts on some of our roadways, particularly Catella, and then one at Cerritos and Bloomfield. Next. Public comments on the EIR came in from these agencies, and questions and comments came from Arrowhead and the City of Cypress. What happens next? Hearings and adoption is the Planning Commission reviewed this in October, November, December, January, and February 9th. The Planning Commission finally came to the recommendation and delivered a document that they're very proud of to you. With that, we packaged it up for you this evening for you to hear my spiel, and your next step will be to adopt the general plan and certify the EIR, not in that order. As we all know, you're supposed to certify your environmental document before you approve your project. There is one small change we're sneaking in at the last minute, and I don't use the word sneaky lightly. We found out that OCTA was making some policy changes, and we wanted to make sure that our general plan abided by theirs so we can not jeopardize any future funding. So we're recommending the changes that Colin will put on the screen regarding your growth management element that's in your binders. These changes came after your documents were delivered to you, so we wanted to let you know some of the words they wanted. Instead of require, they wanted the word encourage, and so on and so on. There's page 1, and then there's page 2. They asked for a couple of changes down here. Next, Colin.
I can tell you that all
Okay.
it does is lessen the requirements. It doesn't add any additional requirements.
And then the post-adoption actions. Now that we've done 4 years of work with a general plan to guide us forward, there's actually implementation to do. Some of that will be start with the Planning Commission shortly, and then it'll come back to the City Council for ratification. If the general plan is passed tonight and finished tonight, our next step is to then make sure that the zoning code is compatible with the general plan. So there'll be text amendments in charts and tables. There'll be new definitions added to the zoning code, and also there will be zoning map amendments to then change the actual parcels that you did with the general plan to be coincide with the zoning code. I'll give you an example. The properties over on Sausalito, the industrial properties, you tonight are considering a general plan policy change to residential, but then we need to go and do the zone change to residential. We can do it. The city can take the lead on that, or if the applicant is further enough along with purchasing those properties, that applicant may do that as well and pay for it and do it on their own time. We will do it with a few of the properties where there is no applicant, like Supermedia. We will take the lead on that and getting that done. So you will see these things come before the Planning Commission slowly in different resolutions and different ordinances, and then those ordinances will come to you formalized. And at that point, those are public hearings as well, and those are second readings. Tonight doesn't have an ordinance, it's a resolution. There is no second reading at the policy level. With that, I have to say that this 4 years, I have to give a big thank you to all the residents and officials of the City of Los Alamitos, from every commissioner, from every resident, to every student, to every volunteer in our community, and every staff member that gave up time from being away from their desk to help develop this general plan. I thank you. I thank the staff, the city attorneys, the city managers that we've had to guide this document through and made it possible to accomplish. With that, we hope we've developed a document that indeed bridges this community and helps this community move forward for the next 20 years.
Thank you. Comments? We'll start with our jet-setting council member.
you want my comments before the hearing, or do we have to?
Gary, do you want to open the public?
Oh, okay. We'll open for public comment if we have any.
Good evening. I'll make this very brief. My name is Steve Armanino. I'm here this evening to indicate my support for the residential use along Sausalito. We support that change.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Susan Horry with Manat, Phelps & Phillips, here representing Arrowhead Products. I'm here to speak also in support of the adoption of the general plan update. I'd like to thank your planning staff, the Planning Commission, and the planning consultants that all worked on this and worked with us to ensure that our business operations can continue with the industrial land use, and also, we think, provided an excellent compromise that allows for options in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment. Yeah. Troy?
All righty. All right, thank you. I also want to thank city staff, our commissions, the community, the businesses, all the stakeholders, the affected agencies. This has been a very long journey for us. Dean was up here early 2006 when we first started. Warren and I were here during the lifting of this and having to evaluate how we want to take this forward. For people at home that think about what is this big deal about this general plan, think of it like a seed you plant. And if you don't plant it in the right area, it just dies. And no matter where you plant it, it's going to grow, and it just may not grow that good. We have this council, it's a very exciting time to be on the Los Alamitos City Councils because we've got a council that is really focused on an inflection point of where our city's at, where it needs to go. City staff had briefed, this plan had not been updated really other than an amendment in 2000 and 1990, so this is 15 years ago and a big change. When you look at the strategic problems that our city is looking at right now, even if you watched earlier tonight in our council meetings, our special meetings, we're in the middle of redefining a relationship for the next 20 years with our military partners at the base. We invested a tremendous amount of money in a pool over there. Things are changing. Relationships are becoming more formal. The people over there are great, but money is tough everywhere, and we're having to redefine a more sterile business relationship other than handshake deals that affected the race on the base. It affects this. And when this stuff starts happening, a lot of people in our community start wondering, well, what's going to happen with the base longer term? The base has a significant dependency on us to continue to support the base because in 2003 the base became under BRAC closure guidelines and it was unsuccessful. But we anticipate as city council members looking forward and sharing that base with partnerships with Cypress, Rossmore Community Services District, Seal Beach, and Garden Grove, that we are concerned that Los Alamitos needed to make sure that we reserve a right into that base so that if anything ever happens for future councils, that we have a right to be able to go and say, what was our plan? The first thing that they would look for if, God forbid, anything ever happened to that base is what thoughtfully and deliberately, not hurried and in a reactive mode, did all the cities in the surrounding jurisdiction have for the plans for that base. And I think what we've done is start to set a foundation, not in an aggressive, hostile way, but in a very open, friendly partnership with the base that says we care about that base, but we also don't want to sit back and be reactionary if something does come down the pike. And what we see now is a lot of data points that says that relationship is being redefined. The other comment I would say, for me, and maybe I don't speak for the entire council, but I used to be a Rossmore resident. I'm very excited with the opportunity that we're now formalizing through the sphere of influence what happens with this community and our partners over in Rossmore, and the sphere of influence is more of a legislative and administrative land use issue that says, this from here forward, this general plan takes in consideration the 2 planning zones within Rossmore, and again, in a non-aggressive, very professional and diplomatic way, starts to lay a plan that if anything ever changes for future councils or the Rossmore Community Services District, if they're able to get latent powers, it provides a framework for a relationship that makes it easier for us to define that in the future. And although that might not occur in our time period that we're on the council, and it definitely won't happen for me since I'll be termed out in this time, but definitely part of this job of the general plan is to set the vision for the future and allow the future councils to be able to work forwards. But the last piece, which, again, if you looked through the general plan, one of the 10 objectives or 11 objectives we were trying to get to, about 2 or 3 of them had to do with really the revitalization in the downtown of Los Alamitos. And specifically, the hallmark piece of this took place right in the middle of this general plan, which is the hospital modernization. So through this process, we had to kind of almost spot zone some of the activity, vacate streets, do all this stuff that had a lot of discomfort up here. But this was a living process that had to absorb that, and through this process we laid a foundation that really sets a vision. And even tonight, if you walk out of here and go down Los Al Boulevard, you look at the Ale House and you see people sitting on a patio overlooking the boulevard, that is a glimpse into the future of what we want that area to look like. It's not putting skyscrapers or creating a 1950s Bellflower downtown out here. It's to revitalize what we're trying to do as a city, and this entire council is committed to that. I'm very excited. I think that this has been something that we took a long road. We could have paid a very big amount and just had a consultant steamroll this thing through and basically said everything I said at the beginning, said go do it, and hope that the majority stayed in place to hold it that way all the way to the end. We let it overlap over multiple council terms, different factions up here. Some of us are getting along that we never got along before, and I think through this process, this is probably one of the biggest hallmarks that this council will have going forward. So I'm adamantly supportive of this. I want to tell the businesses, with our partners out there at Arrowhead, and I know Olson with some of the support and what's going on in Sausalito, when it's come down to this anticlimactic event, I think staff did a great job. And I just want to thank our partners for coming out and voting a vote of support out there and going through. I think there's a lot of the community's feeling and passion has been poured through this, and I think everybody's been represented, because I don't know if you've seen these happen in other cities, but it's usually a circus at this point, and it's real sausage making. No one is happy, and everybody gets to split things kind of right down the middle. And again, Stephen, Colin, and Brett from kind of taking the ball at the very end, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And because you got to witness the earlier part of the meeting, you tell that we're kind of an equal opportunity situation. So when we don't like stuff, I think you can see we could be pretty direct to our city manager too. But I think that's what makes this a good city. And again, I just want to thank everybody. I'm adamantly in support for this, and Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before I may have to leave here.
Thank you. Dean?
Well, I think Troy did an excellent job of the overview of everything that's gone on. And I agree that saw it start, and I'm delighted to be able to be back here when it is reaching culmination. The tough part for a council, and we faced it a couple times on things that are going on, is to be able to look into the future. None of us have a crystal ball. None of us have the ability to envision what tomorrow is going to be, even next week, next month, or next year. But we've tried very diligently to work with professionals to get the staff and the stakeholders in this. The 33 meetings of our commissions and the council meetings and the public outreach that's gone on has really worked well to develop the plan and the program that's going to be a guiding factor for us for the next 20-plus years. It's exciting from the standpoint of the community that we've got a document that is going to be beneficial for the people that are going to come and replace us, looking further down the road, and hopefully they'll look back and say we did the right thing, we were thinking ahead. Even when we talked earlier tonight about the potential of a new civic center complex off this site, one of the things we've talked about is to anticipate that we need space 20 years from now, and not just to replicate what we have here currently. And so I think the council, and Troy hit it on the head, is working together very effectively to try and do the right thing and to be looking into the future. I agree with all of the staff people, with the consultants, with the business partners, with the community partners that have come forward and are supporting this. We've reached challenges. We've had some disagreements, but in the end, we've managed to work them all out, including Arrowhead, that, nobody was trying to force them out of the community. We were looking at what point in time does something happen when they do decide if they're going to leave. What happens to that property? What's in the best interests of the community as we go that way? That's looking forward, and that's doing, in my mind, the things that we were put up here elected to do. And I'm supportive of the document and the next couple of processes that we're going through, finalizing it, and we'll look forward to the Planning Commission doing the remainder of the work that they have to do with some of the zoning changes and things of that nature. But kudos to everybody that's been involved and had a part of it. I think Stephen has probably been the papa overseeing all of this in the process. Colin's been back there pushing him and coaching him in the process of what to do and how to do it. But I can see in his staff position here and both his demeanor and the things that he does above and beyond from the standpoint of the community, that he takes a lot of this personal. And he's excited and delighted when the hospital finally opened. That was one of the big projects that came and started when he was first here, and it was, you could see the buttons busting on his shirt because he finally saw something finished and through. And we've got a great staff that's doing a lot of this stuff, and it's not to demean anyone. Everybody pinches in and everybody does the right thing. So I'll pass it back to you, Mayor, and thank you very much. Thanks for a job well done, folks.
Thank you. Shelley?
Yeah, I just, I was involved with this, but up from the other side of the dais, I did go to the commission meetings. I did go to a lot of the town hall meetings as a resident and also a business person here in the city. This has buy-in for me on many, many levels. Just watching the whole process with the buy-in from the residents, the businesses, the commission, the staff, just everybody, I've got 100% trust that there wasn't a detail missed. I did read the document, cover to cover, believe it or not. I'm a little concerned that after we can approve this, that, Stephen, you're not going to have anything to do, so we'll find some stuff for you. Troy, you stole my word of anticlimactic, so I'll just say, I looked at this after the 3-inch binder was dropped on my porch and reading it and saying, so that's it? All we get to do is say yes? But that's huge compliments to everybody involved with this, that we get to say that's it. There's no argument up here. There's no discussion about things that we missed or any kind of doubt that this isn't a great thing moving forward. We've been sitting here for almost 4 hours, and the recurring word seems to be vision. We started it at 5 o'clock with the vision with the base. We had a heated discussion, and although we didn't all agree on the details, we talked about the vision of LATV, and now we're closing the night out with the vision of the city. That's fabulous. That causes excitement. That causes passion, so we can have more of these heated discussions and agree to disagree or agree to agree. But I just think this just caps off a great vision in moving forward, and it's an exciting time. With that, I'll pass it back to Mayor.
Thank you. Warren?
Thank you, Mayor. And City Manager, Planning Director, I want to thank you. I know this has been a long process, and as Mayor Pro Tem Edgar said, we started this with an ad hoc to evaluate the proposals from the different offers. I think there were 4 of them, 4 that we had to kind of score and go through the process. And it took a few passes to go through that, a few times of meeting, and recommend to the then council that we select the Planning Center, which has now become the name of the firm? Placeworks. So one of the things that I vividly remember, Colin, that you had said, if you would step up here to podium, if you can just say, I think when you first started this project, oh, so long ago, you said that the things that are really good about the city, just from the elements that we have, and it had to do with both residential and businesses and industrial base. Could you repeat that? Do you remember how you said that?
Yeah, it's one of the most balanced communities, really, and probably in California, where you have a potential to have a job from high-end to entry-level, where you can live, whether it be single-family detached or an apartment. You have great schools, great open spaces. You have a military presence, which is, unfortunately lost in many of our communities nowadays. So it's really a community that is a community in the largest sense of the word.
And I remember that vividly from the first time when you introduced yourself to us. And I think the other part that Mayor Pro Tem Edgar didn't really bring up was I'll say the flexibility of your firm about the way that you broke out the project over multiple years, because I think the initial price was just too big a chunk for us to swallow. So I think in that, for the benefit of the city and for us, it was good that it was deliberately taking a long time. It gave us a chance to get all the stakeholders to weigh in, and certainly from a paying of the fees standpoint, I think that certainly helped us in the balancing of our annual budgets and the expenditure. So with that, I wanted to thank you and the staff for doing this. I think we went through a few city managers in the process, a couple of city attorneys in this, so kudos to them as well for their laying the foundation. And then the thing I guess I'm looking forward to is that last part, the next part about the Joint Forces Training Base. I know we wanted to do more, but I think it's just something we couldn't afford. But I think the product you're going to give us will be a start, and then we'll see if we have the ability to push this further on the Joint Forces Training Base, see how we would.
We'll get you enough of a picture to kind of whet your appetite to understand the true implications, and then you can move forward from there as you see fit.
So I guess with what you said about balanced community, so we have a small square, 4 square mile community, of which half is taken up by a big land of massive land that we don't really get to deal with, and we're still a balanced community. I think that's just a good news story, and for all the things that we think is that are wrong about our community, I think there's a lot of things that are right, and and again, strategically for the long game on this, this is for future councils really to deal with, and I think we get to deal with the here and the now, the zoning changes, the conditional use permits that may get contested. Those are things that we get to deal with on a day by day. But this one, I think, as Councilmember Gress said, this is something I hope future council members will look at and say, we did a good job for them. So with that, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I also have some thank yous. Stephen, we're finally there. I don't know if you ever thought we'd actually get here. And thank you to the Planning Commission, who really, some of the members have served 2 terms and put in endless hours on this, because this is really, as Troy said, we're up here, it's not sausage making tonight, but it was over the years, a lot of time and effort put in by people who work for free, volunteer their time for the betterment of the community, and there's no greater thank you than that for us up here. Thank you also to Arrowhead. You were probably the most contentious item within the city, and really happy that we were able to work it out where the citizens and the company are both happy, and another great result. Thank you for all the work and cooperation provided by the company. I think all the other thank yous have been covered. To everybody who was involved with the staff, thank you for all you did over the years. It's been a long process. So at this time, we need to entertain a motion for the resolution for the EIR, correct?
Yes, the first resolution would be Resolution 2015-05.
Can we have a motion for that?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. The second resolution?
Would be Resolution 2015-06, which would be the resolution adopting the 2014 general plan update, including the land use designation changes.
Troy, you want to do it?
I'll make a motion to accept that resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Both have passed.
Okay, these resolutions become effective in 30 days.
Thank you.
The second one does. First one's immediate.
We'll now move on to the mayor and council-initiated business. Would you like to go first?
Yeah.
All right, Warren would like to thank you for everybody out there.
Just really quick, council-directed comments. Two items. I wanted to thank Councilmember Gross and his wife, Planning Commissioner and friend Wendy Gross, for the Precious Life invitation to attend the dinner over the weekend. And as always, the testimony by one of the people that was serviced there was very touching. And my wife and I really appreciated the opportunity to come. So thank you. Second thing is I'm also on the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy Board, and I just wanted to report out an item that came out today. And in that Rivers and Mountains Conservancy Board, I'm appointed through the city selection process representing Orange County Council of Governments. I'm one of 2 seats on the Orange County board, or on this board. It's a state conservancy. So all the projects from the top of Mount Baldy, following the river coming down to Seal Beach through the Los Cerritos wetlands area, that conservancy basically uses Prop 84 bond money and does a ton of work. When Prop 1 passed this last election, the water bond, it added about $130 million more for that conservancy to now distribute. That conservancy's been in place for 12 to 15 years and was coming on the very end of having money, and therefore there wasn't a lot of action going on. That conservancy funded our park at the Coyote Creek there behind Oak Middle School, and is also the bike path renovation that's going to be there. The item that I want to bring up to your attention is that now that money is starting to be allocated starting in July for the $130 million of bond money of the $7 billion water bond, there's been an active move afoot by some of the LA County state representatives to submit a Senate Bill 355, which directly and specifically takes 2 of the Orange County seats and basically removes one of them and gives that back to LA County. So 7 voting members on that board. Like I said, I'm the only Orange County board member. The other seat has remained open. It was Gordon Shanks of the city of Seal Beach. He was a council member that served through 2010. I've been on that board since 2009. To get on that board, you get selected, and then it's a governor appointment, Governor Brown. And so he would not, we've put 3 people forward for Orange County, and he's rejected all 3. I think they might be the wrong party. So the issue now is to get around not having to do that anymore. Senator Lara and LA County state senators introduced a bill to basically take that seat away from Orange County and have the Senate Rules Committee select somebody that they would want. And it just has to, it could be a resident, it doesn't have to be an elected member. So I'm raising the flag through our city manager. I'm going to let Orange County Council of Governments, the ACCOC, the Orange County League, our state senator, Janet Nguyen, our new state senator, John Morlock, Travis Allen, our state assembly member, and Michelle Steele, our Orange County 2nd District Supervisor. Honestly, we are a little city, and I'm just one representative, but we have a voice through our representatives, and we should not let Orange County sit back and just take this. So we're going to raise that up. I wanted to make the council aware of that, and it goes tomorrow as a bill introduced in the Natural Resources Committee, and pretty pivotal point when all the money's starting to flow in and all of our influence is going to flow out. So that's why I was a little bit late, because they tried to introduce it when they knew I was leaving the board meeting early today to come to our special council meeting. I started to get up and I seen that introduced, and so I couldn't leave. So I apologize for being late. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean?
Most of the events and activities that I've attended are listed on my website. It's not up to date, but it will be up to date in the next day or two, so they'll be included there. I would like to mention that on Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend a deployment. One of the few that's happened here in recent memory We deployed 19 soldiers from the Joint Forces Training Base on Saturday of the 79th Sustainment Support Command. They're basically a transportation unit. They're the heavy lifters that get things in place and help. They're going to the Middle East. Of the 19 that are being deployed, 12 of them have never been deployed. So this is going to be a real challenge for them and their families. And they will probably be gone for most likely a full year. But I was honored to be able to be there, to wish them Godspeed, and to let them know that we will be there when they return to welcome them back. Lastly, I'd like to request that we adjourn tonight's meeting in honor of Althea Miller, who passed away since our last meeting. Althea was a long-term community resident. She was mentioned earlier in the session we talked about from LATV a little bit, but she was on that commission, very active, very involved in the community, and she will be missed. So I'd like to ask that we adjourn the meeting in her honor tonight. Thank you.
Shelley.
Okay, community activity, I did participate on Race in the Base, as most of us did, whether we walked or volunteered, that was always nice. I did do a ride-along with one of our police officers, Officer Mal, who happens to be our Officer of the Year as well. And I got to tell you that the level of detail and professionalism that starts from our chief and trickles down was definitely noticed. I would recommend to anybody doing a ride-along. It's amazing some of the stuff that gets pointed out at, in the squad car. I did a couple of the highlights. I attended a Purple Heart ceremony this last week with a lot of my colleagues. This was awarded to Sergeant Rodney Williams, who was shot down over Germany on March 18, 1945. He served time as a POW in Stalag 1 in Berlin. And he passed away in 1994, but the Purple Heart was awarded to his daughter. It was 70 years to the date of her father being shot down, and it was quite a moving ceremony. The history that was there, he was in the Lady Jane II, which we have seen that at Wings, Wheels, and Rotors, and it was at the base, and it just kind of brought everything full circle. One of the other highlights is on Friday, a lot of us attended the Police Academy graduation at Golden West College. We were able also to watch two of our newest officers graduate and then be immediately sworn in by Mayor Murphy. So we have Jacob Otto and Garrett Keel, now part of our police force, and take the time to welcome them. And then also in the past month, I was able to attend and speak at 3 Eagle Scout Court of Honors. And if you know what it becomes to become an Eagle Scout, and that the fact that La Salle just recognized 3 of them in our community is pretty outstanding. The 0.2% of the population that they now join as 18-year-olds. As far as policy, different groups, I'm still active, very much so, in the I-405 OCTA working group regarding the proposed toll lanes down the 405. And also in parallel, last week, Assemblywoman Young Kim introduced AB 1459 that would require a 2/3 vote of Orange County delegates or electorates to approve any toll facilities. This would take away the power from Caltrans to arbitrarily just call something a toll road and create it. This would actually take the voice of the people to do that. So both of those are working in congruent. Also, I was recently appointed League of California Cities Community Services on the Policy Committee. This body reviews issues related to childcare, parks and recreation, libraries, cultural arts, community affairs at a state level. I'm the one Orange County delegate, so it gives us a little voice on a state level, which is a nice addition, and I'm excited. The league they offer a lot of services on both the staff level and also as a council level, so I'm excited to start serving on that. And lastly, I attended the EIR scoping meeting of Barton Place. Barton Place is the upscale retirement community that is being proposed on the property north of Catella over by the racetrack. I believe it's 33 acres. It is in Cypress. It does affect our neighborhoods over in Carrier Row. This is the second town hall meeting I've been to. So far, I'm encouraged at what they've proposed and the underdevelopment that they have brought to it. I think it's a great development for what that area has been proposed to. I think they've just taken into a lot of detail, traffic, retail, just everything. And so I'm looking forward to that EIR moving through the process and moving through the city of Cypress. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I too, as council member Hasselbrink, I participated for the first time on Race from the Base, and so I did the 5K walk, and it was really a fabulous event. And I want to just thank the staff for putting on such a really great show and event, and it was run really tightly. I think things were down to the minute in terms of start time. So kudos to you, Corey, and your team. For the OCFA, my position as director there, I, along with council members from Cypress, Stanton, and La Palma, we met with Supervisor Michelle Steele to discuss this Irvine equity issue and kind of explain the process, which is now going through appeal. So the authority is appealing the decision and trying to seek support from the current Board of Supervisors to either not oppose the appeal, or if it should be tried again with a new motion to, balance out this inequity with the taxation, the structural fire fund, then at least they'll be informed of that. And I think the thing I found out in the process, I guess this is not without precedence. The Orange County Library System also had the same issue where Irvine was contributing a disproportionate amount of funds to the library system, so that was balanced out through a similar process. So I think that this looks like it's something that may prevail in the appeal. So we supported, we briefed Michelle Steele on this matter. I also attended the posthumous Purple Heart ceremony for Sergeant Rodney A. Williams, and it was a very moving tribute to him. And apparently, I guess if I can add just something to what Shelley had said, he personally did not want to receive the Purple Heart while he was alive, because in this mission that they flew, the last mission of the Lady, Lady Jane II, 4 of his fellow crew members, his fellow soldiers, had perished in that the downing of that plane. So his daughter had said that he did not want to accept the Purple Heart. So it wasn't, I think it was offered, but he didn't want to accept it. So I think as she uncovered the history, and she even kind of recounted some of the history of that, and she actually visited the site where the plane crashed and met with some of the people that were there, the heirs of the people that were there, and had made that request. And I think it was really a great ceremony. I'm glad I took some time off work to be there. I attended, along with the 4 of us up here, the Orange County Division League of Cities general membership meeting last Thursday, in which Assemblywoman Young Kim and Assemblyman Bill Bao had spoke about what's going on in Sacramento and sort of a legislative update. And I thought that it was very informative. I think there's things that we should be doing over here. And one of the things that I think Assemblyman Member Bao had brought up is about drones, and that's one of the things that they're dealing with there. And I just wanted to point out, I point out to Councilmember Gross, there's a thing called NoFlyZone.org, which is a way, I guess, that this organization provides the coordinates for how, let's say, your home, if you want to register it, where they'll program it into the drone software that it will know not to fly over your house. So wanted to bring that up to the council's attention. It would be kind of interesting to see if that's something we might consider adopting citywide, if it makes sense, but it'd be something I think as individuals you might want to look at. I attended the Precious Life Gala this past weekend, and I want to thank Wendy Gross on the Planning Commission for the invitation. It was a very touching event too, when one of the beneficiaries of Precious Life kind of retold her life story and what Precious Life did in her life and how it changed, so how it transformed her. And then finally, I guess for something brought to my attention by Councilmember Gross, there is an app for smartphones that has not been implemented by Orange County Fire Authority. And I talked with a chief there, and he would like to do it, but it's there's a cost element that he will have to figure out how to pay, and he's going to go seek support from local hospitals. So I would ask the council members to perhaps talk with Councilmember Gross to see if there's some way we can talk with our hospital here and see if they can do a sponsorship of some amount. The total fee for this, it's called Pulse Point. It's an app on iPhones, and I believe it is an Android app. And what it does, oh well, you know what? I'm going to defer to Councilmember Gross. I'll pat in a minute. But the total bill to the fire authority is $30,000. So Chief Bowman is going to go around to the different hospitals and see if we can get some sponsorship. And I would ask if we have connections here that we might check with our hospital and see if that we can support that activity. And with that, I'll yield to Councilmember Gross if you could talk about Pulse Point.
I learned about Pulse Point from Long Beach, and it's an app. You can go to pulsepoint.com and download it onto your iPhone. Many people know CPR, and one of the advantages of this app is that the 911 services, when they dispatch, and there's many, many services currently on there, including Long Beach, most of the private fire departments in Orange County are on there. What happens is, if you give them the ability to GPS you when you're moving around with your phone, if someone has a heart attack within a quarter mile of where you currently are, it will notify you with an alert, with the theory that you can get to that person quicker than the fire departments can and initiate CPR on the patient. And whether you're in LA County, most of LA County has it. A lot of communities and cities and counties across the country have it, and it's a real good opportunity if you know CPR to be able to hopefully be of help to somebody. Again, it's called pulsepoint.org.
The site, I don't know what it's called.
It's either pulsepoint.org or pulsepoint.com. And it's there's no cost to it. It's a very easy one to download. Then you just simply put in the agency that you want to around your community. And we've talked that for Orange County Fire, if they do it by battalions, we could use the battalion that's in our immediate area here. That's the same way LA County does, is by battalion. And if something happens, you might be able to help save somebody. Thank you.
Okay. Just looking at my list, I realized I pretty much just followed the other guys around town all week. We all went to the same things, but most moving was the Sergeant Rodney Williams' Purple Heart. Was incredible. It's great to see his daughter get the press, to honor her father. It was amazing that it was actually on the 70th anniversary of him getting shot down. And thank Warren for his suggestion to declare it Sergeant Rodney Williams Day here in Los Alamitos. I can't tell you how touched his daughter was by that. One of those things that you think of and you don't realize the impact, but it was incredible. Also, thank you to the chief for recommending that we all come to the Police Academy graduation and the swearing in at the same time. It was our pleasure. Also was able to attend the Eagle Scout Court of Honor of Jesse Anderson and Jason Barnes, I'm sorry, and two incredible young men. And that troop has now produced, I think, 27 Eagle Scouts in a very short time, and they're doing great work with young men over there. I did have a lunch with Michelle Steele, our supervisor, and was able to raise with her the request maybe we can get some of Rossmore's PEG money, and also to see if you can loosen up any money for our parks. We'll see if anything happens there. And finally, just another thank you for everybody who was involved with the general plan and the Planning Commission. As I said, they worked a long time for free. I did notice that we finally got them approved to be on television. They canceled the first meeting, so I don't know about that one. But with that, we'll go to the city manager.
Okay, thank you. We talked about it at the 5 o'clock meeting, but we attended, Councilmember Gross and Community Development and Public Works Director and I attended the conference in Monterey on shared services, and we learned a lot, and we had that successful, I think, meeting with the base today. So in terms of relationship with the base and vision for the future. We really are encouraged by what we learned, and we will work with them moving forward on possibly sharing services. Yeah, Police Academy graduation, thanks Chief Mattern on that, and 2 new recruits, Jacob Otto and Garrett Keel, are starting and are out there at this point, which is very positive. And thanks to Stephen on your great work on general plan. Congratulations again. 4 years of hard work, and thanks to the council and the commissions and PlaceWorks for all their work on the general plan update. I think it's monumental. And Race on the Base, thanks Corey, and thank your staff. Great event that was held once again. And then Orange County Fair Day, I just want to mention, City of Los Alamitos Day will be on July 31st, and we have discount tickets at all of our counters open for the public, and $2 discounts for the fair that will be coming up. But City of Los Alamitos Day will publicize it more. It'll be on July 31st.
Thank you. We have a closed session on the agenda, but we're passing on that today?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So then we will adjourn in memory of longtime resident Althea Miller, and thanks for all she did for our community for a really long time. Thank you.
Good meeting.